use that we have a Slido for questions for our panelists. And yeah, so welcome to our panel discussion on disinformation in business, in media, and so on. So as you can see, fun starts. Okay, this is the wrong presentation. Yeah, I think this one. But the fun starts, so this is not the thing that is different. So our panel discussion is about disinformation detection from a business perspective, and today we have our 4 panelists from different businesses that deals with disinformation and information in any kind. And so we have a couple of slides, and I will give words to them to represent themselves. So please.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, you can. So my name is Kateryna Burovova. I'm from LetsData.
Please, everyone else. Yes.
Yeah, so I don't have too much time to talk about how LetsData works, so I will focus on the most practical implications, the interfaces that LetsData serves to its clients, with some examples of what we do. So we consider ourselves AI-powered radar, and we work to detect early signals of information operations. This is slightly different from what we've been talking today about the manipulation, disinformation, propaganda. That's only the part of what we're doing, part of what we're detecting, and we'll look at the problem as broad as the information operations from threat actors like Russia, China, or malign actors that could work in business space. So a few examples of what we could do: fake Facebook profiles of personnel doing something, preparing for something, conspiracy theories spread, AI-generated journalists with like some, voiceovers over some pictures, etc., etc. These are just like signals that we want to detect that indicate that information operation is in progress. So the interfaces that I've been talking to you about are three main interfaces. The first one is alert. So this is basically something that is the fastest way to reach our clients, to warn them of some risks and some malign operations that we've been observing. Those can be served via emails or like integrated directly into their systems. The next one is the direct communication with insights that we've been having with the data that we've been accumulating. So basically, it's like a kind of a chatbot. And the third one is for our clients that want to see a progression of some information operation or the state of some space. These are in-depth assessments of critical developments in information space. That's basically it. I'm hoping that you do not have questions yet.
Yeah, we will discuss all this disinformation series and conspirology a little bit later. So
Yep.
yeah, please change the slide next and
Yeah.
another one, Mike, by the way.
Hi, everyone. My name is Yuliia Dukach. I'm data journalist and investigator of Russian disinformation, and I represent OpenMinds. It's a cognitive defense tech company created to counter authoritarian influences. And the main idea behind OpenMinds is something different from what, for example, LetsData or Osavul does. We actually understand that the main idea behind us is that it's not enough to to investigate information operations, manipulations or disinformations internally. So if we are talking about authoritarian influence, actually influence of Russian operations, it's not enough to stay always internally and investigate only our own information space in Ukraine or in European countries, for example. But it's important to understand deeper Russian context, Russia, to monitor them, to understand what are the main narratives in the society. Just because if we still like analyze only our information space, we are like a boxer on a ring who only gets punches and try to defend yourself, but have no possibility to punch back. That's why OpenMinds was created, and we actually like position ourselves as social and geopolitical threat identification and response. And we have ML-driven analytical platform with narrative analysis, sentiment analysis, with some network analysis of main actors in different topics and narratives, and some counter-influence and A/B testing on that platform. But also what we do, it's not only like big data analysis of information on different platforms, but also we combine it with another type of investigations. It's sociological investigation, quantitative and qualitative, like surveys, focus groups, interviews in hard-to-reach regions, as we call them, like understanding it's not only Russian territory, but also, for example, occupied territories of Ukraine. And also do some social psychological researches to understand how we can have some influence on this region, or, for example, which danger we can wait for from their side, for our country or our target groups, for example. So it's the main idea behind OpenMinds, and I will be happy to tell more today from our perspective.
Next one is Nataliia.
Yeah, my name is Nataliia Romanyshyn, and first of all, I'm happy to be here today with such esteemed panelists. I'm an AI specialist at Text.org.ua, which is Ukrainian independent data journalism agency and media outlet. So let me quickly walk you through the work we focus on at Text. First, our work is rooted in data-driven journalism that includes everything from in-depth research and investigative visual investigations to detailed analytics and explanatory research. Second, we focus mostly on what is like important for Ukraine and the world right now. So we are covering the Russo-Ukrainian war and its impact on people's everyday lives. Also, we cover like civil society, urban planning, good governance, environmental impact. But one of our like long-standing and key focus of the work is researching and analyzing Russian disinformation and influence operations, both in Ukraine and internationally. We started to do that back in 2018. It was like some project of my colleague that created an ML model, simple. So it started back in 2018 when one of my colleagues created an ML model, simple like classifiers that was supposed to detect manipulative news from Ukrainian websites. That was quite a novel project for a small newsroom back then, and it gave us like a great perspective on how vast and commonly used media manipulation was. In hindsight, we understand that it was just a part of Russian hybrid warfare that they were preparing for our like people before full-scale invasion. And starting from that time, we like decided to do some weekly reporting on Russian disinformation narratives that was
on Ukrainian and Russian websites. But in 2022, when the full-scale invasion started, the disinformation landscape shifted dramatically, and most of that websites stopped working, mostly because they were operated from Russia. So they lost their relevance or access. So we decided to focus solely on specifically monitoring Russian narratives internally in Russian media. So we had a great picture of what narratives they use for their people, for their internal audience, and how they portrayed Ukrainians and the world as enemies. Yeah, that gave us a great understanding and expertise for our further investigations. As a part of that monitoring project, we also created a public dashboard called Wartime Disinfo from Russia. Right now, the project is on hold, but yeah, we will hope that someday we will come back to it. And right now, most recent, our focus is on some specific, more targeted research. For example, we investigated what pro-Kremlin narratives were there before, were on German telegrams before German parliamentary elections earlier this year, or we examined messaging of Hungarian media around this referendum on EU joining, on Ukraine joining EU. And another big focus of our work is analyzing our information space itself. We all know that Telegram is main source of news for Ukrainians. So it was one of our large recent projects to detect manipulative techniques on Ukrainian, most popular Ukrainian Telegram channels. For that, we built that data set that would use for today's shared task. And yeah, that's quickly what we are doing at Texte, and I would be happy to dive deeper into the details later in the panel today.
And our last participant, Yaroslav from Osavul.
Oh, no.
The click.
Okay, hello. My name is Yaroslav. I'm working in Osavul. It's a Ukrainian AI company who focuses in work with information threats. And it's not only information threats focused in government, it's information threats that can be focused in business. It can be like organizing, coordinate organization, some strikes or organization cyber attacks. We work in different level. In one of our projects, we work with data provider. We provide raw data in different countries. And in another project, we work with more complex work, create a dashboard, AI analyze narrative, threats, create weekly automatic reports, monthly automatic reports, detect inauthentics bot activity in some of times. And we create some big reports similar that NATO manipulation brief, what we do last year. And now we focused in some new project, what focused on predict and understanding what will be in the future. It's as a quickly. We have coverage of sources in different countries and of different platforms. When we start only in Telegram, but today we work with Telegram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, X, or Twitter, and so on, and web. And now we work with to connect more exotic network because we want to have a good coverage in different regions and different countries, and understanding how one narrative in one country go to another geography region. And it's all.
Thank you very much. So basically, as we can see, all of you work with information, with disinformation, with monitoring, and basically, like Yuliia said before, that it's important not to be punched in the face by this disinformation and to respond somehow. So during your presentation, you said that, like basically all of you said that you are monitoring this, you are detecting this, you are making some kind of reports out of this. But what actually can be done to somehow mitigate this disinformation attack?
So yeah, I can start, but it's not specifically our task because we are a media outlet. We cannot do that. But what I really believe that here, like our authorities and state should be the most in power and use all the work that organizations such as we and to create some counter narratives and run them against Russia, because definitely it's in that game we are always only like defending, and how long can we do that? And yeah, so we never know. And to really win that game, we need to make some like proactive activities, some counter attacks, and basically all that findings on all that narratives we can use to like for our source powers to be like to utilize them and build some counter narrative attacks on Russia and like other authoritarian regimes. But I don't really know whether I really hope that somebody is doing that, and I would like to join them, but not yet. And as far as I know, part of Yulia's work is like to build in counter narratives and run them on Russian society, and I really admire that. And yeah, maybe you could tell more about.
Yeah, actually, it's one of our like main ideas behind OpenMinds is to do something, not even like to react on their narratives or make counter narratives, but make our own narratives. And you know, like there is an idea or hypothesis that the same structures and organizations who actually create all this information attacks in different countries, they also work on defending Russian societies. So, and it means that if we will make more work for them to defend themselves, so they will have a little less power and possibilities and sources to attack. And it's like, it's only on the level of idea or hypothesis, but we understand that we need to have the possibility to make an influence. But the most important thing that we are still democracies, and we do it, want to do it in democratic way. And it means that we have some ethics behind us. We understand that we don't want to create disinformation. Just because disinformation, it's about fakes, it can be harmful. It can harm some specific social groups, and we don't want it. We just want to, for example, share truthful information, which is hidden, for example, from Russian audience or society, or, for example, which is banned from official channels. And that's why, for example, in OpenMinds, what we do not create like a lot of waves of like fakes or psyops or so-called. But what we want to achieve is deeper understanding how we can make this influence in the best possible way. It means that we do not only like create information we want to share in Russia, but we, first of all, we investigate, for example, which narrative can have an impact. And that's why, for example, we try this A/B testing. So we do this A/B testing for different narratives with control groups who wasn't influenced by these narratives. And we check if, for example, some specific narratives can have an impact on, for example, their believe that Russia goes in a proper way or something like this, or for example about their thoughts about this war or SVO. So it means that we try to find the best way how with still quite low sources, just because we understand how many sources Russia invests in their information attacks. We don't have the same level of sources. That's why we need to use only the best practices and those, for example, narratives, topics, or information which which we are sure that it will be impactful. And that's why we try to do this, all the sociological surveys, big data analysis, and like some expertise from this area, just to be sure that we, first of all, we are still work in democracy, in democratic way, with some moral rules, and but we still need to attack and to be proactive.
I want to bring a spotlight on the business dimension. We are definitely not like strike first type of organization. We're more like protect or evade. And to that, we can create certain strategies. For example, from the content analysis standpoint, you could see where people are underexposed to productive narratives and overexposed to malign narratives. And you can see those particular points of pressure that you can apply to be very effective in rebuilding this perception. And from the behavioral standpoint, I believe this is a hot topic now. I think my colleague will agree that the attribution of those influences is very, very much discussed. The last report on FIMI European, they focused on the framework for attribution, so how to link basically the effects that we are observing, the surface level signals to the deeper structures and to the threat actors themselves. So this is the same for business. If you can effectively link the signals that you are seeing, those anonymous channels, those clusters of synthetic identities to some entities, then you can dismantle at least partially their infrastructure. That will be a game of whack-a-mole for Russia, for example, understandably, but for business, it could be more effective because those people do not have as unlimited resources as geopolitical actors.
Yaroslav?
I just wanted to add, I think that this work, when you highlight information attacks made from Russia on European countries, it's also important to highlight their need to join like proactive measures, just because it's really difficult, it's still difficult to tell to democracies that, come on, information warfare is already here in Europe. And when you prove that you are already under Russian attacks, it actually gives us possibility to take sources and finally make something with it.
Definitely.
But here comes another question. So as we have seen today, like we had a participant from, I believe, Bangladesh or country near somewhere there, and he said that he's not believe his governmental medias. We have the same situation all over Europe, Ukraine, and everyone else. And one of the strategies that implemented by Russia, I think, is to flood everything with propaganda and like to give it as widely spread as possible. So how can we, if we don't have, obviously we don't have so much resources as them, so how can we mitigate it in terms of that this information is much more likable by people, like in terms that when it's coming from TikTok or coming from I don't know, some kind of Telegram channel or whatever, it is much more likely that people will read it and believe it than they will take a look at some kind of report, dashboard, and I don't know, or even if it will be shown on the state TV in prime time, they will say, okay, this is another propaganda from our government.
Yeah, I don't think we have a silver bullet for that yet, unfortunately. But I believe, and it's been investigated, that the speed of with which we act on the signals that we are getting is crucial. And even the fact when you communicate that there is an informational attack happening without even communicating pros and contras, arguments, argumentative side, this helps to mitigate the effect more effectively than when you wait till you get more facts. So basically, the speed with which we act is crucial, and I believe that we can focus our efforts there while we still search for the silver bullet itself.
Okay, yeah, that's that sounds like at least something that we can do. Yeah. But you all talk about some kind of narratives and how you detect them, and maybe you can explain a little bit more what the narrative is and like.
Yeah.
I think Yaroslav maybe wanted to talk about it. He has a very good reaction.
Okay, it's a good question because if you want to fight with around analytics, ask what's narrative, because WeWork is a different project, and in all of this project, people think something different. What's narrative? Global narrative, sub-narrative, cross-narrative, connection narrative, grant narrative with time, and another, and so on and so on. And today, when we start to make some research, first of all, we start to write methodology, because we must to read what's mean narrative for us. And for us now, it's very different in different research, because if we write research about occupied territory, its narrative can be some specific about Russian narrative what's shared in this territory. But if we write reports about Europe, typology of narrative will be more different. It's first we have to understand what's information situation is in this region, who shared, what shared, for what is shared, and so on and so on. And then only after this, we write some typology, maybe classifier, based for us, we usually base it functional classifier. What this narrative have to do? It can be for legitimization narrative or identification narrative or maybe propaganda narrative. And then we create some table of sub-narrative, what's different type sub-narrative promote this branch narrative. But it's only our typology what we do, and it's not mean what it's one right way, because I know many researchers use it different classifier, different way to understanding this. They can be used psychology narrative. Yes, in one of our last research, we have a very big work to understanding what's mean psychology narrative in occupied territory, because it's more different. That's only Russian narrative Ukrainian is bad, or West in demon or another or evil. It's more different. It's a narrative type of breach narrative, or discuss narrative, of neutralizing narrative, or another psychology narrative, maybe from bench framework. That's another.
Yeah, I would define the narrative as something like a story that supposed to like convey people to think a certain way about specific topic. So it is different from the topic, but because topic is just like a matter of something, a subject. For example, consider a topic. Russia's Ukraine peace talks. It is a topic, but Ukraine is losing the war, so we need to make a peace deal with Russia. It is a narrative that Russia tries to put there, and topics is much easier to actually detect automatically, and it is something that we are doing a text. So we are a big fan of BERT topic model. Super fun. And yeah, other topic modeling techniques are also great, but narratives is something where you really need a human eye and analytical approach to actually look through the topics and find what narratives they are trying to push them. Because yeah, so disinformators or like these propaganda machines like they do not try to flood us with specific facts or fakes, specific information. They want to like make us think specific way about that information, and here it is a power of them, yeah, and our problem.
I really like the influencing the opinion, the shaping perception, because they are indeed interpretative lens, as we understand it. I want to add another dimension of the narrative is that it spans across different situations. So it's not basically just description of one situation, it spans across different things to continuously influence people. And I would like to show the audience who what is the cornerstone, why we're talking about these definitions, etc. Because we can provide both qualitative and quantitative insights. And when we're talking about how to select inductive narrative detection or deductive narrative detection, we should always keep in mind that when we, for example, have predefined narratives that we track continuously, there's a question of which narratives do we miss or how we add new narratives to the system. And when we are talking about unsupervised totally detection, then there is question of how we map the narrative that we detected in the previous period to the narrative slightly differently formulated by Bertopic, for example, or analysts in the next period. So the trade-off is there, and the pros and contras also are there. If we want to detect how the informational space changes shape, we would need those quantitative insights, and then we would need to arrive at a consistent framework for definition of narratives at any level, at any space. And here I want to say that I really appreciate, and huge kudos to my team who's right there. Yay! Who are working and helping to work on this proprietary framework. And also, I want to stress that it's crucial to really be aligned with clients, with those people who consume that information on what the narrative is. So it's a separate effort to show people what are those levels of granularity, what are those definitions and functional types. So yeah, really interesting work.
Oh, okay. So yeah, here I probably could argue that all the topic modeling models are good. Like LDA,
them, definitely.
LDA never worked for me. Sorry. But anyway, Kate, you mentioned the clients, and as our topic is also business related, I want to ask, who is the client for this kind of information? Because except of Nataliia, who is working in non-profit organization, all other organizations that you represent are need to make some money, and they are business oriented.
So it's actually a wide range of clients. For example, if we're talking about really hands-on the narratives for business, it could be as wide or as narrow as a smear campaign spanning, for example, you have a product and you want to show that this product is declining to manipulate the shares price, for example. And you peddle narratives about the shrinkflation of the size of the product or the quality of the product. But that is also aligned with, for example, some manufactured consensus in comments about the fact that this product is indeed shrinking. So those attacks are almost never only narrative based, also behavior based. So this needs complex approach and never only narrative based. Yeah, but to take the temperature of the informational space, we would definitely probably start with the content-based approach, and that's same for the business as well. So you investigate what's being said and who says it.
Yaroslav, maybe you, because I know that Osavul raised a couple of times quite a big round, so probably there is some kind of business value in that as well.
Okay, today we work with non-profit organization, government organization like NETA, and now we work with search our way in business, influence operation, and fight with business operation who focuses in business. And now maybe main part is government non-profit, but I think we want to have many more client in business opportunity or in business way, because government is not easy to contact and not easy to work with government. And after last winter, non-profit organizations have a big problem after situation with USAID. I think anyone know about it, his story. And now we search our way in business, search how we can help and protect business from different type of information operation. It's good, simple. It's separation of Palestinian and Arabic hackers who focused in and coordinate activity to create cyber attack to business who support what they think to support Israel, and their partners and some business who can maybe have trade with Israel and so on.
Okay, yeah, I heard that China is filling the gap with the USA, but that's maybe another topic. Yeah, and what about OpenMinds? Because OpenMinds, they are like more focused on Russian-Ukrainian war. So is this like a little bit narrowing down the potential clients?
We are actually growing, so we are talking now not only about Russian territory, but about authoritarian and hard-to-reach regions. But of course, main focus is Russia. As Ukraine-born organization, it's obviously, but we understand that Russia is not the only case in this world where we can talk about this authoritarian influence and hard-to-reach regions. But actually, we have not so wide variety of clients, just because it's mostly like governments of NATO members countries. It's about organizations who work with these governments, but we also now develop deeper investigations and start to work more with research organizations and institutes, just because, you know, not only governments are interested in more information about Russian society. Yes, fortunately for us. Yeah, so it means that we work with research agencies, we provide them with our data, we start to collaborate together. For example, like now we publish this report collaborating with Atlantic Council on bots on TOT, which created by Russia and spread Russian narratives. It means that we actually try also highlight like Russian information operations, investigate Russian society, and take them together to show that this information is important for governments, for partners and organizations connected to governments, and also to research institutes.
But here comes the question: if you're growing further, so I understand that informational warfare will never end, and you will have new territories, new conflicts, and so on. But at the same time, have you thought about expanding something to commercial clients like brands, for example? So I don't know, investigate how Pepsi is playing dirty against Coca-Cola and so on. I mean, that we have quite a big player in this field. And yesterday it was a keynote speaker from USCAN, and what I mean that it's quite very similar fields that you're playing on, and when we started Mantis a couple of years ago, for example, we even used USCAN as a data provider for some time, and yeah, so. Have you thought about doing something like for brands or other commercial organizations?
It's actually for today, it's not the way we are thinking about like commercials, just because we are still more concerned on some social processes. For example, like investigating xenophobia. I think it's possibly can be interesting for some businesses, for example, just because so many businesses are still operating in Russia, international businesses, yeah. But I'm not sure that they are, for today, they are ready to pay for such kind of like information. And it means that if we will try to change ourselves according to possibilities to find more funding from them, I think we will go far from our main idea and the main like our main goal of our organization, like to fight against those authoritarian regimes, but not to work providing. I think that other organizations are wonderful in this area, providing businesses with important information. But our main goal is a bit another.
Okay. Kate, maybe. Okay, yeah, text is definitely not about business. We know that, and yeah, we want to thank Texty for providing this wonderful data set for our shared task competition, and also I have a question about community actually. So as we were talking about these narratives about how it is working on the big scale for countries, for societies, and so on. So don't you think that kind of, I don't know, not silver bullet, but maybe bronze bullet for it, would be some kind of involving the society inside of it? So basically, creating these communities that work on these data sets, make labeling, gather the information themselves, that will create some kind of trust from society and from community overall.
Yeah, definitely, and it is something that we are like working on. It's like kind of a strategic work, like a strategic work that we are trying to do with the population in general, to why we are doing all of that reports like pro bono and available for all readers publicly, because we believe that somebody still will read them. Some people that didn't have like enough critical thinking before, but they will find that interesting, and it would be like we will open their eyes for something. And with all of that disinformation analysis, so we did create it like a big community of people that are interested in that. It is a lot part of them is like other nonprofits or businesses that work in that kind of work, and it is okay, we are sharing information via like community itself, but also it is ordinary people that like understand the why hybrid warfare is like real, and why we live in that world from like 2014. So our people like live in that situation, hard situation for a long time, and we definitely need to give them some like information, some tactics, how to spot all of that disinformation tactics. And when we decided like to build that data set for our project, it helped us a lot, because like we had this disinformation newsletter, and we just posted there that we are looking for professional like annotators, but it wasn't supposed to be general person with general background, but the person who has some analytical background, journalist or media analysis. And yeah, we got like a lot of applications, and I guess in the end we had around 15 people. We also had like hard deadlines on that project, so it was important to get a lot of volunteers to do that. And yeah, that we see that it paid out, because yeah, for all that years we are building that community, and when we need help, they are really happy to be and to be there for us, and to take part on the project. We like recently we started to work on another, we actually finishing that, and another project like finding Ukrainian people that was forcibly displaced in Russia. And we also need like some kind of annotators. It was a different type of task. It was a CV, like face recognition, and we need also like people who have some background on that. And we just wrote that in social media, and they appeared to there. So we definitely appreciate that, and it is something like I guess everybody should do to build the community around.
Yeah, but what I mean by this question actually a little bit different. So you said about gathering some people that already had some kind of experience of annotating and so on. But if you would make a broader number of people in it involved, then you will get more credibility from them. They will like tell their friends and so on, and you will grow this this number of people that is interested in your reports. They know that the things that you're doing is impactful, and basically that will increase the impact overall. What do you think about it?
Yeah, definitely. It's like this added sum what we have, like we are sharing the work and they are sharing our work, and it basically works that way. And we see that in practice, and yeah.
And what about actually uniting all of the work that is done? So I suppose that if you are talking about Russian-Ukrainian war, like every organization that is represented here has their own data sets. Some of them like labeled with professional annotators, some with others. But have you thought about some creating of some kind of central data set that could combine everything that people done before? Maybe, I don't know, maybe the roof of some kind of ministry or something like that?
Some kind of ministry, wink, wink. I mean, that sounds a bit utopian, but that could work actually. The only thing is to like build a consumer base who would actually use those insights, because it's one thing to drop huge amount of information somewhere, and the other to like gain actual practical use from using that information. But that definitely an initiative worth pursuing. Definitely.
And we also have like some kind of umbrella organizations that build kind of hubs and make people go to the like conferences and meet there. And we are actually like communicating a lot with all other organizations from and business and non-profits, and sharing like the approaches and data sets as well. Like not like specifically data sets, but we like talk a lot and we know what everyone is doing. And I pretty believe that if anyone needs like some specific kind of information, it's not a problem to collaborate and even create like projects together. So it's only a great opportunities for us.
It's a great idea to collaborate and to combine some data, and by the way, this war is already called like one of the most documented, just because so many organizations archiving data on this war for different tasks, starting from like creating more basis for judgment system, ending with big data analysis. But I think that the main problem is to create this infrastructure. Yeah, we need a really powerful player on this field to take the like a leadership without you say it. And also we still need to remember that most of us still represent businesses. It means that we need to like create a product which will differ from other products. And for example, in OpenMinds, we pre-trained models for targeted sentiment analysis for Russian language, just because we need to achieve better results, better quality, and it helps us to be a more effective business, and to show our like partners that we actually can provide something better than others. And it's always, you know, there's two sides, and we always also open to collaborate, to give some sources and to work on some data and share some data. But of course, it's always another side, and I want to be like, and I just want to remind that it's always like we need to think about this stuff.
Sometimes it makes me really sad that when I talk with people who is in this informational warfare, they all say like, okay, we are working on Russian language models because we need to understand them. And after all, we have more Russian language models than Ukrainian.
But it's better than, you know, use Yandex sources or I think that we need to understand Russia better than themselves understand them. Like it's for me was a big pity that, for example, there is annual conference on Russia. This year it was in Tartu, Estonia. It always like gathered together NATO members, militaries, researchers on Russia from Europe, like not from Russia. And for me, it was a big pity that not so many Ukrainians were represented, and main panel discussion were mostly without Ukrainians. Just we have not so many Russian studies in Ukraine. From one side, it fortunately, because of some influence of Russian narratives on those students. But from another side, we are not so good in Russian studies comparing with other European countries. It's a problem. For example, it's really difficult to find someone with a great expertise. Fortunately, we have such people, and they work with organizations where they are as useful as they can be in this situation, but it's still not enough. We don't have, for example, as I remember in Kyiv Mihail Academy, they created this Russian studies, and I'm really happy that finally we have this institution to create more experts in this area, in this field. But of course, for me, it's always pity. I understand that from the Ukrainian LP community, it's a bit pity to hear about development for Russian language, but we need to be stronger in this information warfare.
I wanted to just add the idea that that collaboration could be not only like that data set based for just competent users, but also we could crowdsource some threat intelligence, for example. Do you use YPPO? Because I collect those badges. You know, the app when you, yeah, okay, so the app when you hear the Shahed drone, is the correct way to name it? Okay. Okay. So yeah, and you like press the button. That makes sense as well. Of course, there will be like lots of noise as when you like hear garbage collector and you press that button as well. But that's a fun idea to consider too.
I want to a little bit continue on this Russian status because it's quite interesting. Have you checked the quality of that Russian studies? Because actually I have read quite some thoughts about this and quite some articles that, for example, in US, most of the Russian studies coming from Russian born, and it is like historically made, because like the first when they started to investigate Russia, they took the people that fled from Russia after the revolution, then the people who fled from the Soviet Union and were Russian born. And so how is it the quality of the studies?
How we can measure the quality of the studies. I'm really happy that a lot of Ukrainian representatives of academia, for example, they highlight this pro-Russian, pro-Kremlin narratives, which are visible in some Russian studies. And there are a lot of these biases and propaganda made through European and American institutions. It's a big problem, but it's really difficult to check the quality. Just for example, if you want to understand better some very specific Russian region and to understand what is the context there, what are the problems, and you cannot only okay, you will do some sociology, some interviews, focus groups, you can make some surveys, but it's still not enough. You need some local expertise. And the best way to achieve local expertise is achieve it from someone who actually knows the situation by him or herself. And it's always a big problem to actually evaluate the level of it's never will be absolutely independent, neutral person, just because if this person is already part of some very specific cultural area, he or she can be biased. And that's why I'm telling that we need expertise made in Ukraine. We can use this local expertise from Russia, but we will check it by ourselves, or for example, make our own conclusion from this information. And that's why it's really important to collaborate with European institutions who also do Russian studies. They can really be good in very specific topics and they can do wonderful research. And if you will collaborate, for example, their methodology can be more transparent, even if it's not publicly accessible or something like this. So I think that we need to study Russia by any possible different ways and sources. And we have to fight against pro-Kremlin voices in Russian studies in Europe, but there is no this silver bullet again. We're talking about no easy ways how to combat all these pro-Kremlin narratives, forces, or monies in this area.
So I have an idea for future research. You can detect the bias in European and American studies about Russia.
I just want to remind about researchers made by text about Russian voices in Europe and United States. I think that one in the United States was more famous because of Elon Musk asking text to add to list of terrorist organization after that.
Oh, really?
Let it be.
I missed it. Nice.
So we actually lost this American funding before it became mainstream. It was a simple story. We created like a database of different personalities and organizations in US that spread similar to Kremlin narratives in US. It was everything from open sources, so we like didn't have any other sources of information. We just gathered it in a nice visualization and showed some networks with Elon Musk and Donald Trump in the center of them. It somehow backlashed in the MAGA community on Twitter, and they started their own disinformation campaign against text. And yes, they told that we like created a kill list similar to those that we, oh my God, I forgot how it's called. Миротворець. Yeah, it is the same as Миротворець, yeah, again. But yeah, so it was just a nice analytics of those organizations that spread similar to Kremlin narratives there, and we use our like expertise to explain how they are similar to those that Russia spreads. And yeah, but it became viral on Twitter, and Elon Musk saw that and just tweeted, "Oh yeah, so we should ban this terrorist organization from Ukraine." But like we are a simple NGO from like of 20 people. Come on, look at us. Yeah, but that was interesting experience.
Nice. So we have quite a 20 people terrorist group here. And when we are talking about this detection of these narratives, so can you give some kind of framework how to detect it? Because you have data set, but this data set is like a timestamp, right? So you have the exact narratives pushed in exact time. And previously, all of you said that the speed here is actually the important thing. So basically, do you have any like framework how you detect these new narratives?
So I believe that our experience is a little bit different from the others here because, yeah, we are not doing that in real time. We come from the idea. So we know that something is happening. For example, some elections in Europe, and we know that Russian effects are like big there. So from that point of view, we started like to gather some data. We go to like Telegram, the simplest source, but if it's not so popular in that country, we go to like news websites or try to try to scrape them. And mostly what we do, we just create this like clusters of topics, and based on that clusters, so we already have like a human expert who will review them, some examples of them, and manually will find the narrative. So we are not doing that in real time, and automatically we are doing that with human eyes.
So I cannot speak like in too much detail on the approach that we're using, but I can just in general describe this as an investigatory stage when we are assessing the space. So basically we know we need a starting point to track quantitatively something, and then we have an approach to collect more candidates for inclusion in that space. So we are actually trying to remove people as much as possible from this equation, though we still would need human in the loop to like to rely on that data. So we are trying to move to more quantitative way. That's what I can tell.
Okay, I cannot talk many about what we do, but I talk why and when we start to use the framework. In February 2022, we collect data maybe from hundreds of Telegram channels in begin, and I think, oh, it's cool. Read new reports of EFR Lab, write about some network Russian, so 15 maybe new Telegram channel, and cool, we connect them. But now we collect maybe 13 or 12 million messages per day from hundreds of thousands sources. And how it works with all this data in real time, or maybe it's not in real time in some of our research. In our last research, we work with a dataset from 3,000 or more 3,000 messages, what we group it, or in maybe near 3,000 of information incident. And then we start to think how we can classify all this information and how we can group and what inside we can understand or from in all of this data. First of all, what we use it. We start to use it Disarm framework. It's really hard to use it. It's not easy to use it. People who saw this framework understand me. It's a largest table with many TTPs, tactic, technique, and procedure, numerator. But what's plus? They have a good description. And if we have a good description, we can automate it. And we start to automate this tactic and marks our information incident, detect what tactic will be used in one of another our information incident. Then we start to think about psychology, because one of the point of our research is psychology. And then we start to use it bench framework. It's some of psychology framework who describe psychology maneuver, as they say, what it can be positive and negative. It can be positive, it can be breach, or negative can be neutralize. This maneuver give us a psychology aspect of this information incident. Then we use it ABCDA framework to understanding all our data. It can be actor, facts, behavior, and so on. It's 5 aspects. Using ABCDA, we understanding what narrative will be in this information incident. And then we connect all these frameworks, understanding what was. And it's really interesting, because if you research only narrative, you work with narrative. In you work only in topic, you work only in topic. But if you connect all this, you have to more deep information. You have to understand how they promote some of narrative, what tactic they do, and what's effect, and how people understand this information, because we have information about reaction, views, number, count of comments in all of these posts. And we have to understand what's maybe TTPs is more work better or less better. And it's really interesting because if you work with design framework, you can classify information. For example, they have TTPs number 0086. I remember it, 0.002. It's about images, AI-based AI generate images. Maybe I make a mistake because it's 0086.
I don't think that anyone else knows the numbers, so let's keep it.
Okay, and we have to understand how this TTPs, it's TTPs about AI generate images, what they use it to promote some narratives, and we have to understand how people react, how people understand and how people learn information, because we have count of comments, we have counts of reaction, we have counts of reposts and views, and we have to understand what's TTPs work better or know what's narrative work, and it's complex and it's give us many new information.
This is actually very interesting, and I think that I will speak to an NLP community who would understand that representation of information is crucial for that pattern seeking. And so the basis of what we do is numerically representing something. In the same way, we are now learning to structurally represent threat intelligence. Basically, there are some formats, like, for example, STIX, I don't know if you use it, which basically structures information into parts that, for example, this could be like artifact observable that we, like hashtag, for example, that is used, or this could be, for example, recommended course of action that you recommend to take, by the way, proactively or reactively. And this is very inspiring and very hot topic in our community. So I hope that we will work on that more. Yeah.
One moment. Big plus design framework, it's what they have a blue framework, and it's a counter tactic to tactic. They have some list of tactic what government of organization can use it to countermeasure some information threats.
Interesting. I think you should post this links to this framework online, because
good luck investigating that.
Okay.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that it's also important to add as many possible labels, additional information to every piece of information. It means that it's not only, for example, on our platform, we are mostly interested, we analyze very specific predefined topics. They are quite wide, for example, like mobilization in Russia or something like this, or other topics which are interesting for our partners and clients. And it means that, okay, we got a dashboard, but what exactly we can, how we can take some insights or useful information from that. I think it is the most difficult question about usefulness of dashboards. Just because, it's a big struggle, just because when you're just enter this area and you're sure that you will create the ideal dashboard, which will be so useful and so many clients will be happy with this dashboard. And then you ask how many of them actually use it and how often. And that's why we see this alerts in presentation, which is much more useful and than some dashboards. But anyway, dashboards are a quite good instrument to monitor during continuous period of time. But you need to understand what is the source of this insight from dashboards. And for example, for us, it's important to analyze sentiment and dynamics of this sentiment. That's why we actually worked on this Russian targeted sentiment analysis. And for example, we need to classify our actors. Okay, we analyze messages, but when we need to classify, okay, it's pro-Kremlin, it's opposition, it's neutral, it's media, it's anonymous, it's blogger, was it edited or something like this? Or, for example, in which part of a great Russian network, or, for example, in Telegram, this channel is located, or so you need as many additional information which will make your dashboard as difficult as possible. But it will give you this possibility to have an insight, and I think that it is one of those questions which you have to find the answer. It's about user experience and about a lot of additional value for these instruments you will add, and it's really difficult to find the ideal format just because you will always try to improve it.
Yeah, this is why we added the chatbot, the AI analyst, on top of those insights, because you need digestible formats.
Yeah, it's always like, okay, for some analysts who know what they are doing on this dashboard, you will give all these possibilities, and for others, like, we just have this menu with insights, like only insights from this data, just few highlights, just to try to make it better.
Yeah, executive summary, as they call it. Yep. I think. Yeah, let's continue. I have a couple of more questions because it's quite an interesting topic. So, yeah, but have you ever tried to detect how these narratives that you're detecting, they are coming from being marginal to some kind of, I don't know, mainstream, and analyze what to do for them not to come? So, I mean, like, this MAGA movement in US, like, it was quite marginal a couple of years ago, and now we have everyone in the White House, and so it's quite interesting how they put a little bit of information from their like views, their narratives inside of the media, and send from the beginning it is quite marginal, people don't like it, but they continue to put a little bit, and then it becomes mainstream at some point.
Well, there is a way to predict impact. This is highly debatable how precise that prediction of the impact can be. But for example, you have those parameters in networks that could help you predict how effectively that information will be communicated to the audience, for example. And you could try to investigate the susceptibility to certain narratives. As I'm sure we all heard the Cambridge Analytica, etc. I recently read that those big personality traits that they used, it was not as straightforward as magic as they actually communicated and described in media. It was a bit like more limited in impact. So, for example, it's really hard to sway the voter, but it's much easier to persuade you remain and not to vote at all. So basically, there's where the real shift happens. So yeah, we can predict, but in case of United States, I believe nobody ever anticipated this dynamic, and maybe those who watched did not reach as many ears as they should have. Same as climate change. We kind of know at the back of our minds, we understand what's happening, but, do we act on it?
I think that official position of US now that there's no climate change.
Oops.
Yeah, and I also have a question regarding that monitoring of the opposite side. So you're monitoring Russian, right? And imagine that they closing up. For example, you cannot monitor anything in North Korea, right? Or at least it will be very difficult. So imagine that these dictatorships, they're closing, they are making it harder and harder for information to come in and to come out. And what is the plan for the next steps for if that happens?
To find a way. It's like we are talking about it every week on our planning. We are talking about this messenger, created in Russia, promoted by government, and it something like a WeChat in China, which will combine messenger with some governmental stuff. It's like idea together with Telegram combined together, with identification. But even today, I think it's a great question to ask more for our colleagues who work with China. For example, some Taiwanese organization, just because, I think that comparison with North Korea is not so good, just because in North Korea, it's not so good internet connection, mobile internet and mobile phones. But Russia is quite have a great this level of internetization. I don't know how to say it in English. Yeah. So it's really difficult to close totally, just because we know that even in China some ways are still exist to investigate them, because when it's a small country and closed countries, it will be more difficult. That when we are talking about big country with big level of internet connection, with mobile phones, with different platforms used by they are still using YouTube. WhatsApp is a big problem.
No, I think they are trying to replace it.
It's still something like 20%. They tried to replace it for so many times. They made it more or less successfully, just because now they are slowing YouTube, and now they make, for example, new law about this ban to promote VPN services. You will have to pay thousands of rubles if you will promote VPN in Russia, for example. But they even still use TikTok, just because TikTok is available without VPN only with videos before 2022. So just because they will install some modes, you just change iPhone to USA to have this chance to use TikTok in Russia. That's why it's important to understand the context and to know what will be the way to find the sources or possibilities to analyze, investigate, and influence.
Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, it's time to come to the community questions. I have still a lot of questions left, so we can continue it forever. But unfortunately, we don't have time for that, so we will start from the questions that has the most kudos. So, do you consider argument winning techniques not only detect influence propaganda, but to automatically argue against them?
Well, I mean, that's what synthetic identities are doing right now. Yeah, you definitely, to deploy this automatic arguing system, you don't even need that much of an effort. You can just drop an LLM on it. So there is a way to argue in automated manner.
I think it's also about you're talking about alerts and information, yeah, automated, but it's also it's still impossible to make fact checking, some really good fact checking in automated way. We still need fact checkers, but we can react to. We understand that information operations, it's not about fakes in most situations. That's why we can react, for example, create some bots which will react to very specific narratives, which we expect to see in some topics, for example. If we know that Russia creates a lot of bots to spread some narratives, we can react on it with automatic behavior under the same comments. But of course, we will need some additional sources for that. So in some situation, it is possible.
Okay, next one. Who and how define what is our narratives? If it's not counter-narratives, does it mean that Russia influence our narratives in the reverse way?
I struggle to understand the question. Do you mean the productive narratives? What are productive narratives?
Kind of, I think so. I think that what does it mean that if we detect some kind of Russian narratives and we can make counter narratives, but how we detect the narratives from our side, what we are trying to say?
Well, that is actually important, again, because when you have a community of people overexposed, for example, on temporary occupied territory, overexposed to their narratives versus our narrative, productive narratives, this is quite a problem. So the same way as you detect external narratives directed to influence, you could detect productive narratives. So I'm pretty sure the tooling the same.
I think that it's for me it's more important even to talk not about like counter narratives, but about changing behavior. So we need to find a way how to change behavior, and it also works for like hard to reach issues, but also for Ukraine, for example. If we take one of the most successful, unfortunately, information operations made by Russia around mobilization in Ukraine, we understand that we do not want to make a counter narrative, but what we want to achieve some level of mobilization. And it means that we need to work around this idea, and like a joke, we even have a Ministry of Strategic Communication. but it's like a joke, yeah.
The ministry or what?
No, not ministry, but it's really a great complex question about how we can create like our own narrative and make it the first one in our country.
Okay, let's go to the next question. What media or social technology could become the emerging manipulation platform in the next years? I think this is because we all talk about Telegram, and I hope that at least like in a year or so, the share of Telegram would shrink at least a little, and we could use some kind of other technologies.
Yeah.
So what's your bet on the technologies that will be used?
AI chatbots. Like it would be the main source of new manipulations and disinformation. What we see is that Russia is actively working on like poisoning them with their disinformation, and it would become like only more and more extremely used. But in terms of I just don't know whether they will become more like social media platforms, but maybe one day. And like another one is already there is TikTok, which is not so much like research and discovered, but it grows dramatically like each year, the popularity of that. So I guess TikTok and AI chatbots would be my bet.
And regarding the chatbots, I think that Grok in X is quite an interesting example.
Наш козак.
Also considered to be in your terrorist group, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, a little bit expanding the answer. I think that regarding the AI chatbots, we have a couple of big players in this field, and I don't think that people will use some kind of custom-made chatbots in some, I don't know, channels. So maybe there's a way to influence them somehow and not to spread so much disinformation.
Actually, what we're kind of like right now working on the research to spotting like different biases in open source LLMs, which will be like the basis for those AI chatbots. And yeah, it's actually interesting that even most of the Western models still tend to like take this like Russian disinformation bias than like Western neutrality biases, but it's like different classes that we try to detect. And what to do with that? Actually, don't know. Like, we have definitely to work with these big tech companies and try to somehow regulate them and yeah, work on the sources they are using for their models. And yeah, that's pretty an answer to that.
I think that there is some work already done. Yesterday, we heard this question about Pravda Network and its influence on Llama. And for example, today we have already the initiative JTI, as I remember code. It's initiative created by international journalists to like make accreditation of media which work according to journalist standards, and how they try to explain their mission is that they will create a list of the best sources to train your models on news, for example, of those organizations, just because you will be sure that those news are created according to journalist standards. Because, of course, it's not a great amount of data. And, of course, this list for today, there are already some media organizations from Ukraine represented there, but it's still not enough for different regions, different countries, and of course we have this bias for Russian language. So but I think that in different areas already we have some small examples how we can try to fight back this problem.
Yeah, and advice from me, I think we have discussed it on the podcast with Oles Petrov. You can write a lot of comments on, for example, Reddit and other platforms that is crawled to train new LLMs and change the bias towards our side. So let's pollute everything with comments. Okay, the next question. Are you taking any steps to counter international disinformation, including that coming directly from the president about the law 2041-4? Internal, sorry.
Yeah, actually, we did a project on that. The whole week yesterday at the evenings I was on the protest, and by day I was searching this shit on Telegram channels. And yeah, when we see that there is some probable information campaign, we would look to that, even that we know that it is our internal one, because we want for people to be aware of that. And yeah, we gathered some couple of again most popular channels and see how they were spreading the messages right before the law was taken, and how it was spreading a couple of months before. And we definitely saw some actual information attack there. But it was interesting how some pro-Russian channels tried to actually fit in those. So there was a channel of pro-Russian media, Strana.ua, and they distorted the narratives that Ukrainians were pushing. So they tried to use this information campaign against this anti-corruption agencies and use it to delegitimize Zelensky. And we saw that on the streets too, because some of the people were protesting not against the law, but against Zelensky. It was marginal, but still we see that they try to use our own failures to their use. But
yeah, but this is quite expected. I think even some kind of MAGA activists like Major Taylor, she also made some kind of post about it.
And yeah, we saw that.
I also think that this is why we make distinctions between disinformation, misinformation, and malinformation, because clearly taking pictures out of the context and putting into the context that Ukrainians are protesting government in general is typical malinformation. So this is why it's kind of my pet peeve to see disinformation used in place of all the other terms, just putting it out there.
Right, and this is quite a good question, actually. What are the risks of such systems like yours, I think, that is used by the bad actors? So, for example, I don't know, some kind of closed minds working on Russian sites, I don't know, videos, and so on.
You know, when I just joined OpenMinds, I remember that feeling when I tried to combine what was in my thoughts when I investigated Russian disinformation. I expected that they conduct something like information monitoring and they react quite quickly to very specific cases. And I tried to, and you know, when I worked before in text, and I imagined how it can look like. So I had this like picture in my mind, and when I joined OpenMinds, I actually tried to compare this picture and what we do, and I understood that okay, I think that we also need this kind of stuff, just because it's obviously that in such information like system we need like this thing that it will be important for us to use for such kind of activities, just because you know they already use a lot of such instruments, just because they're just not publicly available and they are not talking on conferences a lot, and they don't show slides, they just like make their monies from Russian government. So there are already a lot of such instruments available for authoritarian regimes. We can remember about Xinjiang region in China, and they are all this super smart, like I remember the smart city system in Kiev made available for Ukraine with Chinese technologies, and all this like genocide of Uyghurs in China, which is actually possible because of great technological system of monitoring of every person in China. So there already exist, but in democracies, we are still not on this stage, and that's why it's so important to develop such kind of technologies, like made for good reasons. Just because for bad reasons they're already there.
Yeah, I don't think that they're even separate organizations. They're just part of, of the government. So. Okay, what about bots? They're quite popular at Telegram channels, especially in temporarily occupied territories. How do you deal with them, and what are main indicators for identification?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was this person who told that I will not talk a lot on this panel discussion. Yeah, just because we just published at the mid-July this big report about bots on TOT. So where it identified more than 3,000 of bots, which are already, we see that they use LLMs to rewrite messages. That's why it's more difficult to identify them. Just because only third part of all their messages was unique. It means that they really rewrite their messages with different wordings. That's why for identification, it's important to know this language. Just for me, for example, a lot of their messages, they looked artificial. Just because, you know, these LLMs, they are still not there to be the best players to write humanized messages.
Wait a little.
Yeah, still, at least for Russian and Ukrainian. Yeah, and how we actually detected them, we detected them through the big data analysis. When you don't look at very specific communication, but when you analyze all the messages made by very specific user, and by comparison of the same topics, and we actually detected 69 different topics they used during year and 3 months, and they used them simultaneously. It means that they have the system of keywords, reacting to keywords, and to use different like topics from their pool of topics exist for that moment of time, and detect them with again like this using behavioral patterns with some artificial things on, for example, in their usernames. It's really difficult to create unique bots when you need to create 3,000 of them. It means that you will use some patterns to create them.
You just dump some kind of database of names and use it.
They use generation. They use generation of these names, yeah, and that's why they are so artificial. Just because, you know, if you just take some available, freely accessible models to generate names in very specific language, and you will try to generate Ukrainian, you will laugh a lot just because they are not so Ukrainian as they want to pretend themselves. They are very rarely like visible in Ukraine names, but they actually just used usernames in Telegram. They have to be unique. They just used random Latin letters, and that's all. And they these kind of bots, they hadn't interacted with other users just because they just push their narratives. But we already see AI-powered bots, and they already start communication and discussion, and they discuss with themselves from different, you know, parties. They make polarization even more visible through this kind of activity. It's really difficult to prove that those accounts are bots. That's why we analyze this, like we call them narrative bots, just because they just pushed their narratives. And we actually gathered all this users who just pushed the same narratives through the same period of times based on some very specific wordings and posts. But I already saw a lot of AI-powered, but I'm still not ready to collect the big number and to prove somehow that they are really real bots. I thought about this possibility to write some messages to them, you know, like, just because hello, yes, or something like. We need more complex, more difficult ways how to detect them, just because they become more unique with all these possibilities of AI, but also to like new creative ways to highlight that they are bots and do something with them on the platform.
Yeah, but this is this kind of thing that while you are updating it from your side, the detection, they will update from their side and become a little bit smarter.
Lots of detection indicators become obsolete. For example, the multilinguality increased greatly. So, for example, if previously you could just see inconsistencies in posting behavior, user posted in, I don't know, Italian, and suddenly he's Russian speaking or Ukrainian speaking. This is now harder because they are quite good at erasing previous history, or, for example, just using consistent amplification for higher networks. Also, fun fact that they are putting effort into media affiliation impersonation. So basically, those bots, they are very cute. It was reported in the Operation Overload recent report, or Matryoshka, and they had as a small affiliation, as in my son is in the CNN, my daughter interns for blah, blah, blah in BIOS. Just put the affiliation out there and users will not read even deeper. So those are very, very sophisticated.
I saw some bots which were like good bots on our side. And I was like so happy to see, wow, I see this. I'm sure it is bot because of, you know, when you read thousands of bot messages, you can detect them from the first second.
This one is backend by Llama, this one is backend by Gemma.
But I remember that I saw this like good quality bots with, you know, in Telegram, you can create stories. And in these stories, I saw that this profile which was quite like not pro-Ukrainian, but at least anti-Russian and against war in Russia. I don't know who created this account, but I thank them just because it was account with female picture, with female real like name, which looks like real, with pictures in stories, and there is a history of stories when you click on account history, how she donated to Russian army, but she wrote in comments that, you know, my husband again, he came here for weekend, but I'm so afraid that he goes to the front line, and the death is not for like. You know, this it's a great example that this bot account was created to show that this like person supports Russian army, but just feel fear about, for example, close person to her, and through comments try to spread this like anti-mobilization vibes or something like this, and it's like a good example. It's a good example just because it's on our side example, but I understand that Russia will definitely use the same strategy about pretending real persons, and it's really easily automated by algorithm to create like female picture, to create some kind of stories, to create this like story behind the bot. And when you see the story behind the bot, it's much more difficult to detect and to prove that we are talking about bot account.
Yeah, right. And hope that it will be not an orange cat.
Okay, remark bots use it maybe 12 indicator. Classic, it's timestamp, count of message, username, and we group another marks. We groups comments in some cluster, use it similar. And because if you read comments in one, two posts, you maybe it's not bot. But if you reach all this group in thousands comments, when you see one comments with what would repeat in hundreds comments, it's very visual understanding. And but my lover bots live in Ukrainian Facebook. It's best of all, I know some author who write maybe hundreds of bots in months. And this text, he changed, she, I don't know who is this, they change, add something new information about what will be in this week or in this month. Istanbul, okay, we add something sentence about Istanbul. Trump, okay, we add some more sentence about Trump. But text is, we first saw this text in 2024. And it's text they write today, adding new information, but main text is they don't change.
This is what I was talking about. They're pushing these narratives like a little.
It's laziness. Laziness is everything for detection.
But in Ukrainian Facebook, it's quite actually difficult because you can go there and everyone is an expert on everything. Like, if it is Istanbul week, like everyone is just talking about. And actually, like it's quite strange because there's like a lot of hate in the comments, especially if you go to some groups like Noviny Vyššoje Osvity. It's like pure hate. So. All right, this next question. How do you handle annotations ambiguity in your data sets? Have you concerned cross-checks for labels or annotated agreements, metrics, or something else?
Yeah, so we decided to go like the other way. We created our like editorial team that was reviewing all the annotations. So before the annotation process started, we gave extensive trainings for the annotators and a lot of instructions, but still somehow it was quite hard to detect to differentiate between some of the similar techniques and spot the specific span where the manipulation happens. So it's also can be ambiguous. And what we to overcome that, we decided to set up this reviewing process to only like review a couple of them for each annotator, and then like we see that he or she learned and like stopping reviewing them, but at the end we were reviewing everything by our it was a second round of annotation basically by our internal team that we were reviewing every annotation, so it's actually agrees with what we were looking for. Yeah.
Okay, next question. How do you measure the effectiveness of your counter narratives? Not on the A/B testing, but overall.
Maybe you.
I mean, you rarely.
Sorry, I just resolved it.
Oh, okay. I was hoping to read the full question.
No, but the full question was, how do you measure effectiveness of counter narratives?
Well, the counter narrative again is the kind of a false abstraction, because when you just simply negate the narrative that you are seeing that is used by malign actors, that is not the way to go. I totally agree with that. But in general, I believe that I saw on your website that you do post evaluations, and we do that also. So there's an approach that you can measure baseline, then you measure those same measures, for example, of exposure, engagement, etc. after, and then you provide quantitative and qualitative insights.
Yeah, it's like ideal, like when you measure something before, measure something after. It's when you actually plan some campaign. If you just react or make counter narrative, it's much more difficult to understand that we were effective to counter those narratives. But if you plan something, it is an ideal situation when you measure it before, measure after, and we'll see the difference. Yeah, you know, just because I think that the main problem is that we try to prove that the way what we are doing is have to be always successful. Just because if we look at Russian strategy, they will just do everything they can and something will end with success. And it means that they will use all possible channels, all possible ways, like bloggers, bots, pro-Russian, like some conduits. They will use all possible ways to make an impact and to influence some very specific area, like mobilization. And when we are working in like some situation when resources are not enough and you try to use them as in the most effective way, but it's still about human behavior. It's not so easy even to make someone to love Pepsi but not to Coca-Cola. And when we are talking about, for example, protest behavior, even if you will ask, do you ready to go to protest? We understand that it's not about measuring protest behavior. Readiness to go to protest is not equal to protest behavior. That's why sociological surveys are great to measure something, but it's really difficult to combine it with behavioral change. And if we are talking about counter narratives, we talk about changing of worldview, like some stereotypes, some beliefs, and behavior. And it's so difficult to have an impact on it. That's why, okay, we are trying to measure it, but we also try to explain everyone we can, from partners, businesses, governments, that it's really difficult.
Okay. Yaroslav?
It's another problem. It's in Russia, it's a censorship country, and the people didn't write what they really think. In Ukraine, we can't write our government is bad, and another. If you write this in Russia, it can be a big problem for you, and that's why we couldn't understand all impact because we don't have information how to understand this impact. Because reaction can be not all people make reaction if they agree with this text.
But there are some ways. Yeah. For example, you cannot ask about attitudes toward war. You cannot ask in Russia, obviously. But one of like publicly available examples from my colleagues, it's about like asking at the end of the interview, do you ready to pay half of the payment you will achieve from this survey to Russian armed forces? To make some donation for half of your money will go like as donation to Russian army. And if people are against the war, they will disagree. And they will, anyway, in any situation, they will take their monies. It doesn't depend on their answer, but it's like a way how to measure. But we really need some level of creativity to find these ways, of course.
Yeah, this seems a little bit like conducting surveys in Soviet times, right? This next question, do any of you analyze sources or of disinformation that are different from news or social media? Some things like Wikipedia edits can be used to push narratives as well. I think I know from who this question is, because no, but he's not here. So one of authors of the paper that was presented in the shared task, Alexander Kosovan, he was also working on a paper about the Wikipedia disinformation. And so this is like a great example of using of different tools to push the narratives as well.
I mean, the product reviews could be a great source as well. So basically, everywhere the traces of people talking about the product are left, this is the way to go. Google reviews, etc.
Yeah, or marketplaces, or some astrologers. Yeah, we will publish in the nearest time. We analyze the network of Russian astrologers, how often they are talking about politics.
You should create your own astrologer and send.
Yeah, it's also about an influence. Yeah, you know, we just because Russia, they create astrologers for Ukraine. We have tarot cards about Ukraine will lose this war, Kharkiv will be occupied, tarot cards and TikTok with thousands of views in Ukraine. So they are already there. That's why we need to analyze not only news, but also about some fun content from TikTok, from other platforms, just because they are already there.
What would be a feature of a novel LLM fluent in Ukrainian to be useful for Ukrainians, but and useless for informational operations by foreign powers? I heard that Kyivstar started hiring people for building LLMs. So,
I mean, there are ways to instill guardrails to define what's intended use and what is not intended use, and guard that intended use as closely as you can. I think that we would definitely need some way of detecting attempts to use it not productively. So as well as like major providers of LLMs, we would need to like see what's going on with the use. So just that, I think.
okay, and here comes another question. Authoritarianism is used to insulate the truth and create propaganda. Now they have learned to dump down free speech with excessively dumptious information. And do you see a conceptual shift in the concept of free speech in democracies? This is more a philosophical question, I think, but the question is correct. So basically, we have uncensored TikTok that influenced Romanian elections. We have the uncensored X that is flooded with Russian bots influencing US elections. We have like Telegram. We just have Telegram. Like that's enough. But do you see any changes in free speech concept?
I love to use how Peter Pomerantsev actually talking about this point, that it's not about like free speech, it's about not enough transparency. And another idea which is now like debunked somehow in Europe, that there is no like free market of ideas where like rational people will choose the most correct and factual based one, and it means that actually this like free speech, it's about possibility to create a lot of emotional manipulative content, and it means that a lot of people will be biased by it. But for us as democracies, the main task is to turn back the transparency of our information area. Just because, for example, when we're talking about transparency, we are talking about two things. The first one is transparent algorithm of moderation. We need to know how platform moderate themselves, if they moderate. Remember in Telegram, for example. And another is about algorithms. Algorithms are part of business processes. They are not transparent at all. And freedom of speech, it's to know why algorithms of your personal account in X will show you exact this news feed. And it's coming back to the freedom of speech. It's to have the possibility and availability of true information about current states. And for today, unfortunately, all those platforms which actually exploit this term, they actually do a lot against freedom of speech, just because we don't have this freedom to understand why we are attacked by very specific content, and which make us more polarized and biased.
I think actually regarding Telegram, the best work is done by French government by detaining Mr. Durov, and yeah, we will wish them luck.
But it wasn't against disinformation on Telegram. It was about narco traffic. Yeah, it was about child porn. It's about not moderated content. It's not about just because it's really difficult to take this topic on disinformation to court.
All right. So, what research topics beyond topic detection and sentiment analysis would be useful for counterpropaganda?
I really believe that behavioral factors are under the spotlight to be investigated, because content-based factors, they are known and they are useful, but it all boils down to behavior when it comes to attribution and curbing that behavior effectively.
Yeah, and basically, I think that Alexei Ignatenko had previously a very good summer school on game theory, and there was good lections on behavioral game theory. I think that everyone is interested can watch them and yeah, get some new ideas about. Do you think there is a way to prevent malicious usage of Ukrainian LLMs, especially in the light of recent publications that shows that alignment can be easily removed because of the dispersity of the amount of data used for pre-training and alignment?
Well, as Grok showed, there's more and more data used for alignment, so more effort in last Grok towards that effort. So yeah, that's one way to go. And again, we are at war and we can't ignore this fact. So basically offering that model for free for free use when it's really, really potent can be dangerous. So maybe controlling the endpoint is the way to go. I don't know.
Not sure though, because like they got lots of other options, so. All right, this was our last question. So I thank every one of you. And I think that we have great insights provided for community, and there is a lot of to think about. Yeah, so thank you everyone. And on this, it's time to close our workshop.
Thank you so much to our panelists. It was a very insightful panel discussion. Thank you for joining us. And like we'll spend the last 10 minutes, oh, sorry, 5 minutes, I guess, on closing the workshop. Because